There's chiropractors all across Australia at the moment who have either just graduated or in their first month of practice at the moment. And it actually got me thinking when you first graduated, 7 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even myself, I've been a chiropractor over a decade now. Yes. And yeah, probably got me thinking about the first patients that we would have been seeing or that you saw. I know you've got a good story. So why don't you tell the guys a bit about it?
First patient that I ever saw in practice was an interesting one I wasn't prepared for. I was so excited. I started taking the patient's x-rays, and at the time we had the cassette x-rays, so put a cassette in, x-ray came up, and I was like, what is that? And to me it looked like a knife or a sword or something. And I was like, is this going to be the first and last patient that I ever see? What is about to happen to me? These are the things that don't teach you at uni. It was a Punjabi patient who had the sick, and yeah, I didn't know that. No one taught me that. So that was a bit of a culture shock. One I'll never forget.
Yeah, because I think, I've seen like a lot of Punjabi patients or patients from Indian background, different types, but yeah, sometimes they have the bangle, sometimes they got the dagger, I think there's something else, and it's funny like all the things that you learn when you actually see patients and learn about their culture and those types of things. I still remember my first one, and probably even before that, I think something that some people forget is, one day you're a student, and then like the next day you get your upper registration, you get an email. Like that's literally what happens, you get an email. And then I'm like, oh crap, what do I do now? And then so I rang Robbie, who's, he was, my mentor or, who I was working with. And he's like, well, you need to get your insurance now. So ring my insurance up, get them on the phone. And they pretty much said, oh yeah, you're good to go now. So I can legally see patients. And we were opening a practice at that time in Hoppers Crossing. And they had literally had 2 patients waiting for me to get my registration, or 1 patient actually waiting for me to get my registration. And so they're like, yep, just go down there. So I drive down there, I rock up, and the clinic, I don't think we ever had carpet yet. Like there was literally an x-ray machine, a front desk, and we had paper and pens. And so I gave it to the patient, and sciatica, like a common cause of what's going on. So back pain and then down their leg. And I was like going through the history, and it was like in summer and I was like sweating. I'm like, oh, here we go. And so I was going through it all, looking, and then did all the assessments, and then took the x-rays, which we had as well, looking at the x-rays, and I'm like, hey, there's nothing obvious that's really sticking out. And she's like, oh, I've had sciatica, it's been really bad for 3 months, and blah, blah, blah. And again, uni, they try their best, but I think sometimes when it's just you doing your own thing, it's hard. And so I look at everything, and I called Robbie, and I'm like, hey, I can't see anything, there's no fractures, there's none of this. And he's like, well, what do we normally do? We do the assessments, we feel the range of motion, we feel the joint stuck, what do? We adjust it. Okay, so he's like, go adjust it, it'll be great. So everything was clear, went and adjusted her, and she gets up, she's like, oh, and I'm like, oh crap, what have I done? She gets up and she starts walking, and she's like, oh, my sciatica, it's gone. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I've got this. This chiro thing's super easy. And then her sister's there, and her sister goes, I've got sciatica too. And I'm like, okay, cool. So go through the whole process again, do everything really similar. And yeah, to just go through everything, do the assess, get a set of scans, have a look, and really confident this time, all right, nothing that's contraindicating. You know what, I'm gonna adjust her, she's gonna get up, she's gonna feel $1 million, adjust her, she gets up, she's like, oh! And she gets up and she walks, and she's like, oh, I still got the sciatica. And so it's funny the patients, how much they can teach you, even just by what they give feedback to you. And it was amazing that day. It taught me so much about how amazing chiropractic can be, but also sometimes that it does take time. And I think I continue to see both of those patients. They referred so many people in over the following years. So yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, and I guess with patients, they might have the same condition and respond totally differently. And it's not often that happens on the exact same day, exact same time on your first day.
Yeah, but it was just nice to have something really memorable. And for some of the people that are graduating now, they probably won't have a very memorable first 1, 2, 3, 5 new patients. But I think you've got to remember that each person we see is like a teaching experience, and that's really, I guess, what we want to be able to do, because we learn so much at uni. We need to then put it into practice. And we both started our careers at Wellbeing, and we're still here. And I think I've learned so much while I've been here, not just off Robbie, but other practitioners. What are the things that maybe you wish you knew in your first few months that really helped?
What I wish I knew when I first graduated is that, especially from a patient perspective, is uni teaches us all about pain. And yes, we need to help patients with their pain and improve their symptoms and as best as we can. But really, I noticed that patients don't come in when they've got a symptom or a pain. It's normally what that pain is stopping them from being able to do. It's limiting them in their life or impacting something, or they're not able to work, or they're not able to play with their kids. And initially I was just so focused on symptoms and pain, but not necessarily connecting with patients and figuring out why they've actually come in.
Yeah, and I think we talk about sometimes like their dream outcome, the life effect, or the patient's goals. And I remember starting off doing that, it feels a bit awkward. Hey, what are your goals? And people go, oh, mate, I'm just here because I want to feel better. But as you said, it kind of represents, hey, I'm able to play with my kids, or hey, my kid's turning 16 this year and I want to be able to play cricket with them because I've never been able to do that. Or it might be to go on like a family holiday together or something like that. And as a new graduate, I think we're taught about conditions, we're talking about symptoms a lot, but it's like what that actually turns into or how it affects their life. And at the end of the day, if you can solve their life issues or their life effects, that's when they're really going to thank you and think you're awesome.
When we start out, we're so focused on diagnosing what the issue is and trying to find the exact terminology to explain what the condition is, rather than just, this is a human being in front of me and I need to try and work out what's going on with them on a deeper level, and also being able to communicate that to them in a way that they understand and educate them.
And is that something that came naturally to you, or do you think it was something that you practiced or you were just oblivious to?
Didn't come naturally, I would say. It was more about observing chiropractors like yourself and other chiropractors inside of wellbeing, outside of wellbeing, and just learning different ways of how they do things and how they communicate certain things. And there's always something that you can learn from someone else, and doing that really, really helped me find my groove and find my flow.
Yeah, I think one coaching thing that really helped me was Josh Wagner, who's a coach from the US. I think he did a few things about 10 years ago. I think he's back over here now doing a few things. But the way that he spoke about the life effect really spelt it out to me, because I'm a very literal person. Like if people don't spell it out, I sometimes don't understand it. I always say I sucked at English when I was at school because there was no one answer. But he always talks about the life effect in terms of, describing the symptom, whether it's sharp or an ache and that type of stuff. The life effect, so is it stopping you from playing golf with your mates? Is it stopping you from taking your kids fishing or whatever it is? And the last one was the emotion that it caused. And I think for a lot of blokes as well, it's really hard to get them to speak about their emotions. And emotions can mean that they're scared about not being able to do certain things. It might be that they're worried about it happening again and again, or like their family has a similar issue. So a bit of a plug for Josh Wagner there. He's not paying us here, of course, but he really spelled it out for me and helped me to understand the emotional and goal setting side to be able to get that out of a patient to assist them and get the goals that they're after.
I think we underestimate as well how in-depth that is to go through with a patient. I mean, when you go to see any other health practitioner, or you go to see a doctor, often it's hard to connect with them, and it's really hard to find that perfect match. So when we can connect with patients and get their emotion, get their life effect, and get that exact description of the symptom, it just shows that we understand exactly what they're going through and we can put ourselves in their shoes.
That can never be underestimated, how much of an effect that can have. Something else that tends to happen around this time is people might be graduating, they've been practicing for a month or a couple of months, and they're sitting there kind of going, oh, you didn't teach me this, you didn't teach me that. And they might try and, I guess not blame it, but almost to kind of create an excuse. Funnily enough, I think I've told you this, but I play water polo with like a few lecturers, and knowing the stuff that they had to go through to make sure that the course was ticking all the boxes and all those things. Like, I've heard stories and I really feel for them because they've had to work super hard to make sure the course is up to a high standard. I guess if people are feeling as though, hey, the uni didn't teach me certain things, do you have any advice about what they could do, or like where they could go for resources or any coaching that could help?
Biggest piece of advice I can give is start with an open mind. Be open to learning from other people's experiences, but also, reaching out to mentors. I think having a mentor is one of the most important things that you can do for your career. And, you've played a big part of that for myself. But also, one thing that I struggled with was the philosophy side of things. And I had to outsource for that. I had to find that from other chiropractors or other mentors, people like Dr. Bryce Fleming from Sydney. He had a big impact on me when it came to that. And I think that having an open mind, seeking out a mentor, is going to set you up for success.
It's funny you mentioned mentor. I think, Robbie Hunt, who's the founder of Wellbeing, I asked him if he'd be my mentor, like a few months in. He's like, I don't want to be a mentor. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I just want you to work here and like do your best job and like serve as many people as you can. And he probably didn't say he'd be my mentor, but I think he really has been, funnily enough.
Oh, definitely.
And I guess with philosophy as well, is that something that you had to like write down? Is it something that you had to talk through? Because I also know, again, being a very literal person, I struggled with it at stages as well. Was it something that came over time, or did you have to sit down and write it out? Like, how did it work for you?
I think it was definitely something that I kind of always had in the back of my mind or knew, especially from, I had a mentor throughout uni as well who I was CAing for. And I guess that was embedded in me, but I just didn't know how to explain that in my own words or just make it my own. And so I think it definitely came over time. Also just seeing different patients and where they're at in their health, I think that really helped me piece it all together.
Sometimes people even get like repelled from the word as a chiropractor. It's like, they might want to avoid that term, but I think all of us do have a philosophy. It's just about if we can explain it or about, what's important to us. And I think when you're doing that and getting up every day, going to work, for a lot of us, working till 6, 7 o'clock at night, if not later, you do have to have some purpose. At some stage, it can't just be about, earning a paycheck. At some stage, you do have to care. You do have to want to be there, and you do have to care about the people that you're serving. There'll be a few students right there, or new graduates, I should say, who might have seen 20, 30 new patients by now. They might be getting, some self-doubts. Like, what advice do you think we could pass to them, or maybe some shortcuts that you think could help? Do you have any like 2 or 3 points you think would really help them?
Setting expectations with patients. Sure. Sometimes patients come in with, incredibly crazy expectations that they're going to be healed straight away or feel better straight away. And I think new grads especially, their confidence will come when they know that what they're recommending is true and accurate. And part of that is telling the patients, hey, in 2 to 3 weeks' time, potentially depending on the issue, your symptoms will start to improve. And then in 6 weeks, what to expect. And then letting them know in 12 weeks what to expect and what they're going to see. And, posture is going to improve, mobility is going to improve. And setting the right expectations early on so that, you feel comfortable in exactly what you're recommending for that person.
Their experience so far, like a lot of the time, is you wouldn't have taken a patient through a full journey so far. And so, being a chiropractor, a lot of the time we see people for, 6, 12, 16 weeks or whatever it is. And, what are we, 2 months into this year? So you might not be seeing the results that you're recommending to people at this stage. And that can be hard, not to get that quick feedback. So I think keep doing what you see your mentors or people you work alongside doing is probably like a really good start. People use terms, fake it till you make it, or, pretend as is. But I think the main thing is there's a reason that people around you are doing certain recommendations, doing certain care plans. It's because it works and it gets people the best results. So that's probably number one that I'd always say. Number 2 is you've got a lot more learning to go. That's not to say you don't know a lot already, but there is a lot more learning to go. It's not that, hey, I've got my degree, I'm all good, I don't need to learn anything ever again. It's be willing to learn all day, be willing to learn as much as you can and continue to thrive in education. I find is a really big one. And then probably lastly is, try new things. I'm not saying, try wacky things, but try things that, if you've never given, exercise recommendations, maybe give exercise recommendations alongside your care plan. If you're worried at uni, you maybe only saw people once a week, maybe seeing people 2 to 3 times a week, you're going to get better results. So I think the last one is also trying new things that you might not have, I guess, before you graduated as well. And again, look for people around you is a really great piece of advice to see what they're doing. If you're told what to expect and told numerous times, it makes your experience a lot better, and also your expectations are met a lot more. So yeah, I recently had laser eye surgery, and essentially, I booked in and I got this PDF essentially, and I was really excited. I was like, oh cool. So I started reading through it, and they were basically, talking about the different surgery types, and they were talking about like the different healing periods and that type of stuff. And then when I went in, I got the assessment, and before I went in for the assessment, they said, oh, we're going to do these 5 tests, and then after that, basically you can talk to a consultant about what you want to do going forward. Then I went in with the optometrist, and they said, hey, we're going to do these 5 tests today, and then you get a chance to talk to the consultant about what we want to do going forward. And then so I went through the tests, so I knew what was happening. That's exactly what I expected. And so then I got to the consultant, and they basically said, hey, after today you got a few options, this and this, and they talked me through all the stages and really presented it well. So I guess why am I telling that story when I'm a chiropractor and I'm not an eye surgeon? It's because, the professionalism, and don't just assume people know what's going to happen. I think we've seen it as well when a new patient comes in, they might have seen a chiropractor before, and they just jump on the table and you're like, oh, I haven't assessed you. And they're like, oh, but normally I just get adjusted by my old chiro. So yeah, setting expectations for people, I think is a really big one. And also probably not always from a new graduate point of view, putting too much pressure on yourself. Going back to the research, going back to what is a normal expectation for somebody to get results, not putting that extra pressure on yourself. And yeah, going with what the data and the research says around getting results in time periods, just like you said. Yeah,
and I think even when I started, I kind of swayed away from that, and it was more about what do I think the patient is going to be able to afford. I dug myself a hole there because it got to the end of their treatment plan and they maybe didn't get the results they expected, and that was my fault. And I feel like I failed that patient because I didn't give them the correct recommendations based on the data.
Yeah. And
that took a while to come to terms with.
Well, I think, yeah, and I always look to other professions for this type of stuff as well. It's like, I don't know how much braces cost these days, but I'm guessing maybe a couple of thousand or 5,000, I got no idea. But if somebody says, oh, I got $500, can you see what you can do with that? They're going to be like, well, hey, this probably isn't going to work.
Exactly.
But for some reason, as we're service-based, like per service essentially, sometimes we put extra pressure on ourselves to get it done quicker than what we might otherwise.